All Hit Radio.
Welcome to the X Zone, a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. Now, here's your host, Rob McConnell.
And welcome back to hour number 2 of tonight's show. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. This is a place where people dare to believe and dare to be heard. It's a place where fact is fiction and fiction is reality. And we come to you Monday through Friday from 10 p.m. Eastern until midnight right here on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, that broadcasts this show and great music the rest of the 24-hour broadcast period, right through the province of Ontario, state of northern states of New York, and Pennsylvania, and streaming us around the world on classic1220.ca. My guest this hour is a gentleman we've had the pleasure of having on before. His name is Peter Sterling, and Peter is an award-winning harpist, visionary artist, author, and renowned guide to the sacred red rock vortexes of Sedona, Arizona. Joining me now is Peter Sterling. And Peter, welcome back to the X Zone.
Rob, thanks for having me back again. It's always great to come on the X Zone.
You're a busy man. Let me see. This should be just the beginning of the time of year when people start flocking to Sedona. And what's it like there on the off season?
Well, the off season can be very quiet. You know, in the old days, we used to have a real distinct off season that would happen every summer. You know, when it gets above in the upper 90s, people stop coming, and then in the winter months, after the holidays, it would be quiet for January and February.
Right.
But nowadays, our town has grown so much that the off seasons are becoming less and less distinct. But generally, that time of the year when it gets too cold and too hot, that's the off seasons for us, winter and summer. And it's nice, the traffic thins out, and that's when the locals kind of come out. And but when it's busy right now, this is there's such a big industry here with tourism. We have over 4 million tourists come every year to our little town, where there's only about 10,000 full-time locals here. So yeah, and this is the time, and it's been busy for me. I do my tours, and I've been busy lately working with groups and taking them out into the secret sacred places that I've discovered over being here almost 4 decades on and off, and being a guide for almost that long. And I know some special places, but I go out on the land, and we explore the mystery and the magic of Sedona that's known the world over. People come from all over the world now to come here and to feel the energy, to experience the vortexes and the portals and all the mysterious stuff that happens around here. So it's fun. It's kind of, I've always called it kind of like a New Age Club Med here, sort of. I mean, it's a very unique place. The only other place I found kind of like this is in my travels is Glastonbury, England, which is also a magical little town, kind of a sister town to us. And there too, there's all these vortex and portal areas that you can explore, travel around the land there, and they both have a tower. We have a chimney rock here, which kind of shoots up behind the town, and also Glastonbury has that St. Michael's, chapel on the top of the tor there that is stands sentinel over the land for generations, and so similar. But yeah, this is a special place. It's a lot of fun. There's so much to explore here, and the mystical aspect, and all of that. So I've been doing it a long time. I've been a guide here for about 30 years on and off.
My
So
goodness.
yeah, it's fun. I enjoy it.
What was it that drew you to Sedona?
Well, uh, I was living up in Colorado for about 10 years. I lived in Aspen, and I was doing the ski bum lifestyle in my 20s and really enjoying that. Became a ski instructor for 5 years up in Aspen in the 80s, in the early mid 80s, and
Hmm.
super fun just being up there. I actually met John Denver, worked with John Denver
Oh,
at
you're
his
kidding.
WindStar Foundation, which was a educational and research facility all dedicated to human potential and sustainability. And some of the great thinkers of the time came there, like Werner Erhard and Buckminster Fuller, the great scientist. He was like the grandfather of the place, very close to John. So I got to be around him sometimes, and he inspired all the geodesic domes on the land. It was a really great time. But then, I was going through my what you would call my Saturn return, kind of in the end of my 20s,
Hmm.
astrologically speaking, and I just felt the change coming, and I had an opportunity to stay there and live that lifestyle, which was fantastic. But there was something else calling me, and I started to hear rumors of this mysterious place in the desert Southwest in Arizona. People started talking about it in the late 80s. It was really what happened was right after the harmonic convergence of 1987, August 16th and 17th, which was a Mayan, galactic synchronization date based on the Mayan calendar. And here on those days, about 5,000 people came to town. And then this was before the internet. And then after that big weekend here, everybody went home and told all their friends about this place. And that's when the word started getting out in the kind of in the circuit. And so I started hearing about this mysterious place with energy vortexes and portals. And I was like feeling drawn there. And
Right.
as fate would have it, I met a man who was also in Aspen. We became friends. It turned out he had a little cottage. He had a little cottage down on Oak Creek in Sedona, and he said, "Hey, man, go down and check out my place. There's nobody there." And I was like, "Wow, it was really synchronistic." So I jumped in my truck after ski season, and drove down to Arizona to check it out. And it was in the late spring, and everything was greening up. And I came down from Flagstaff down into Oak Creek Canyon in the late afternoon, and oh, I just saw the red rocks for the first time and the beautiful waters of Oak Creek flowing by. And it was just so beautiful. I was really amazed at what I was seeing. And when I got about halfway down, I was just so touched. I just felt emotional. I had to pull over, and I just felt like this unusual familiarity with what I was seeing, almost as if I had seen it in a dream. And I just sat there for a moment. I felt deep inside in my heart like the word home. It felt like home, like coming home. And this is a common experience with people. And I went into town, stayed at this little cottage for a few
Hmm.
days, and just went out and about by myself. And I met the most interesting people, Rob. These people were like angelic people, like very, very high vibration, and they were almost seemed like they were floating around. And the amazing thing was everybody's heart was so open. Everybody was just kind of loving on each other and was just so friendly and open. I'd never been in a place where people were like that. And I was just, wow, this is the coolest thing, I thought to myself. And I was like, I'd like to come here. And so I actually, after that, I went back up to Colorado, and the guy offered me his house. He said, "Go down and live in my place." So I packed up and moved out, shipped out of Colorado, came down here. And I really came down here to live as an artist because I'd always done art. So I set up my art studio, started creating my stained glass art. And people can see it if they want to see my stuff. Harpmagic.com. I have gallery of my artwork there, my glass and everything you can see. But and but then after a short time, I started to get this message inside, Rob, especially when I was hiking out, that I felt that something was going to come to me, something new. I just kind of felt pregnant. And this is common in Sedona too. People come here and they discover something about themselves that was kind of hidden, like a hidden treasure. So my guidance was that I was to give all my possessions away, acquire a Volkswagen camper van, which I did. And I was going on a vision quest, a bit of a walkabout, and that my inner voice was going to guide me to go certain places where I could discover things about myself and kind of remember who I am and why am I here. And I ended up just sleeping every night out in the canyons, out in the forest all over Sedona. Back in those days, the forest was open and free. You could park anywhere and camp. And but the main thing was I just immersed myself in the backcountry in this exquisite silence and tranquility and peacefulness there. And that was what my inner voice was telling me. Something was guiding me, and it said, just go and sit in silence. Go sit in silence and go deep, deep inside. What you're seeking is within you. It's not outside of yourself. You're not going to find it outside. You have to go deep inside yourself to find what you're looking for, this hidden treasure. So that's what I did. I just sat on a rock under a tree over and over as much as I can. I started meditating several times a day and just really going deep into that experience. And that ultimately what happened was sitting out in the silence of the canyons, and I went through a series of transcendental, levels of awareness, which I kind of equate with how in yoga they speak about different levels of samadhi. So I just was able to really go into a deep meditative place where I had no thought. My mind became very spacious and really went into that breathless state as well as the yogis too. So I started to really go into this higher space. All of a sudden, I started to hear the faint sounds of some sort of music. Something was caught my attention. I thought, maybe somebody's out there somewhere with a portable stereo playing some symphonic music that I caught a little whiff of on the wind. But then, no, I realized that's not what it was, that it was coming from within me. And so I just started tuning into it. And the more I did, the louder it became, to all of a sudden, I was hearing something that was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard, Rob. And it struck such a chord once I realized what it was and was hearing it coming from within me. I had to equate it to, I was really focusing on opening my psychic vision with my meditation, a third eye, but simultaneously my third ear open, because many of mystic traditions speak of the inner light and the inner sound. I was aware of that. And all of a sudden I was having my own experience. And it was the most beautiful sound I had ever heard, and actually moved me to tears once I realized what was happening. My whole body began to tremble and shake. It was such a powerful experience. It was totally transcendent and divine. And that sound and the light took me out of my body up into the light. And I had a whole series of angelic visions.
Well, let's talk about those on the other side of this break.
Yeah.
Fascinating story. Thank you very much for making time for us tonight, Peter.
Absolutely.
Exonation, our guest is Peter Sterling. Do yourself a favor. After the show, visit his website, harpmagic.com. You won't regret it. I'm Rob McConnell. This is the X Zone. You're listening to us on the X Zone Broadcast Network and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220 CFAJ AM in St. Catharines, streaming at classic1220.ca.
To try love again, but just between you and me, baby. How do I get through one night without you? If I had to live without you, what kind of life would that be? Oh, now I need you in my arms, need you to hold. You're my world, my heart, my soul. If you ever leave, baby, you would take away everything good in my life.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Strolling is my very special guest this hour. His website is magicharp.com. All right, let's get to the angels, because I have to tell you, Peter, and I'm sure I've told you this before, angels are my favorite topic in anything we talk about on this show, because I believe in angels. I have actually seen an angel. So
tell us about it.
Okay, I will. This is going back many years ago. I guess I was about about 6 or 7, and we lived in Montreal at the time. My mom, my dad, my younger brother, and myself, in an area called Park Extension, which was it was something like the melting pot of Montreal. And back then, I don't know if you remember this, Peter, but baby food was sold in cans, little cans.
No. Okay.
And my mom was, made my brother his supper. He was much younger than I am, so he was eating this baby food. And my brother got very sick. And my mother called up my grandmother and said, I'm going to bring Robbie over, and I have to take Anthony to the hospital. Which she did, and we got a call from my dad that, we were at my grandmother's house, and of course, she called up all the other members of the family, and they all converged at her house. And my dad called me, said, it's not looking that good. It's severe ptomaine poisoning.
Oh, wow.
Anyway, everybody is really sad, which is, it's only normal.
Right.
And I was in the kitchen with my grandmother, and there were all these people in the kitchen, and I looked in the corner, and there I saw a man that I had never seen before, and there was something very special about this man, and the message that I was kind of getting from him was, "Don't worry, everything's going to be okay." I remember his blue eyes. He had a glow around him. I call it that now. And as soon as he said that, the phone rang, and it was my mother telling us that my brother was going to be okay. Nobody else in that kitchen saw that man that I described. No one. That, my friend, is when I started to believe in angels.
Isn't that amazing how the angels can take on forms like humans and come into our life, and then they mysteriously appear and mysteriously disappear, and it's like they're kind of like these trans-dimensional beings that can pop into our 3D and then pop out again. Wow, what a skill that is to be able to do that.
So now you tell us about your angel experiences.
Well, I certainly will. And by the way, the website is Harp Magic, not Magic Harp.
Oh,
but
I'm
Harp
sorry.
Magic.
I'm sorry. It's
no worries.
harpmagic.com.
But that did inspire me to share that since we last spoke, I published my first children's book called Peter and the Magic Harp.
Wow, congratulations.
And that is available on Amazon right now, so people can go look for it. But what's cool is it won the Children's Book of the Year award at the World Entertainment Awards in Los Angeles. That was 2 days before the Grammy Awards. They had the World Entertainment Awards, which is a big music thing, but they also have some other categories. And they had a children's book category. So I entered my music. I was also up for New Age Album of the Year. I got a nomination, but I didn't win that, but I won the Children's Book of the Year. And it's my story in a children's form, and it's got beautiful illustrations. So
fantastic. Congratulations, my friend.
Yeah, but I was sharing how I was out excuse me.
Sure.
I was out in the forest, out in Sedona, and I've been living out there and going deep into my meditations and just immersing in this profound silence that is there. And I call it listening to silence. I just did some time just kind of dropping out of the world, and I went in through like a portal. And this, back in these days, it was easy to drop out because we didn't have cell phones or computers. And back in those days when I was living in my van, all I had was a a PO box and a 1-800 voicemail, and a calling card that we used to go to payphones and use our calling cards. So it was very easy to drop out of normal reality. I was just guided to I was going through kind of a crack in the world, so to speak, a very shamanic type of journey. And the land here just facilitates that level of awareness, just with all the Native American history and the ancient history there. But sitting in that silence, I began to hear the subtle strains of this music, and then it became louder. And then I realized that I was hearing something of a divine origin, and that I was having a mystical experience, that I was having my own experience of hearing the inner sound and seeing the inner light. And so my inner guidance was just telling me to just over and over, started hearing this inside of my head: trust, surrender, and let go. Trust, surrender, and let go. So that's what I did. I just allowed this sound, this beautiful sound, to lift me out of this world, so to speak, up into another dimension of being. And I was experiencing on the inner, because my eyes were closed, and I was seeing this golden light. I went up into the golden light. Oh, and the feeling was just of profound love, just of pure divinity and profound love, divine love and oneness. And I just felt the unity of all things, and it was a beautiful, magical, powerful, transcendent experience. And as I got up in the light, in the golden light, I sensed I was starting to see something in this space with me. And I adjusted my inner vision, because I could felt some sort of higher spiritual guidance was helping me to see in the inner planes, in these other dimensions, in the inner planes within. And so as I focused my vision, I all of a sudden I could see and I could discern that I was surrounded by a group of angels.
Wow.
That were around me. And to my astonishment, they were the cherubs that, we so often see depicted in classical Renaissance art. I was in Italy this summer with my son and some friends, and, in Venice, and all the buildings and the great cathedrals all through Italy, cherubs and angels are everywhere, And so, and even painted on the Sistine Chapel, Michelangelo. And so there they were all of a sudden. And I was seeing them with my inner vision, and they were all around me. And they were the little chubby cherub ones, and they were playing harps and flutes and violins, just like we see depicted in the classical art. They were like the little angelic musicians, the cherubs. And they were just these magical beings. And I couldn't believe what I was saying. I actually brought myself kind of back into my body and just kind of opened my eyes and looked around. I was like, what the heck is going on, but then I just went back inside and went back up into the light, and there they were. And as I was seeing them, all of a sudden in my head, I could hear them speaking amongst themselves, Rob. And they were like, wow, do you think you can see us? and they were just so curious about me. And then in my head, I told them telepathically, I said, I can see you, I can hear you. And they're like, you can see us and you can hear us? And I said, yeah. I said, can you see me and hear me? And they said, yeah. And as soon as we realized that we had made this connection, these angels got so excited about that. And they started just kind of flying around quickly, and it was like a little celebration broke out. And I later learned like they were happy because they had made contact with a mortal human, in the world. And this doesn't happen very often. And all of a sudden I had this direct line of communication to them. And so I had several experiences. I write about this in my book, Hearing the Angels Sing, in great, great detail. But ultimately, I went on, many journeys with them, and they showed me a lot of different things about their world. But the ultimate kind of pinnacle experience with them was when, I was with them, and they wanted me to fly, Rob. This was the coolest experience. They're like, come on, we want to show you some things. And I'm like, I had two cherubs. Imagine this, if you will. This is like in your imagination, right? You have to open your imagination. Let it be inspired by God's love, because God gave us an imagination so that we could imagine the heavenly worlds and the majesty of the mansion worlds, of the higher dimensions of light. And so God gave us that capacity in order to see that. And so all of a sudden, if you imagine, these two cherubs come and one on each side of me and kind of lift me, and all of a sudden I'm flying with the angels, and I'm looking around, and I don't have feet. My feet are not there, but they kind of taper off, and there's just like fairy dust kind of trailing behind us. Absolutely a magical experience. And then eventually, as I got the hang of it, they kind of let go of me, and I was just flying with them. And this happened on more than one occasion, and they took me to many things. But ultimately what happened was I was with them, and all of a sudden we were kind of in this dark space. And they motioned me to look over there. And I looked over, and way in the blackness, there was this little point of light, like a single star. And all of a sudden I looked at it, and all of a sudden we all started moving towards it. And it began to get bigger and bigger. And all of a sudden it turned into this great sphere of golden light, like a sun, an inner sun that was so bright. And I often say that it burned like 1,000 suns. It had this intensity to it, this radiance, this illumination of pure divine radiance that was so intense. At first I couldn't look at it, and I kind of shielded myself from it. But the angels assured me, they just said, trust, surrender, and let go, and just relax into it. And then as I did that, I just let go into it. All of a sudden, I came into harmony with the energy, and it was the most profound feeling of love I had ever felt, that this radiant sphere of luminous golden light was pulsating and emanating pure love, pure divine love.
Peter, stand by. We've got to take our break at the bottom of the hour.
Sure.
Exonation. Peter Sterling's our very special guest. Visit his website. It's a great site. You're going to see some wonderful stuff and learn more about our guest. His website is harpmagic.com. And this is the X Zone. I'm Rob McConnell. I'll be back on the other side of this very short break as we continue from our broadcast center and studios in St. Catharines, Ontario, Canada, on the X Zone Broadcast Network, and on your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ AM, streaming at classic1220.ca.
How do I get through one night without you? If I had to live without you. Hey lady, you lady, cursing at your life. You're a discontented mother and a regimented wife. I've no doubt you dream about the things you'll never do, but I wish someone had talked to me like I wanna talk to you. Ooh, I've been to Georgia and California and anywhere I could run. Took the hand of a preacher man and we made love in the sun. But I ran out of places and friendly faces because I had to be free. I've been to paradise, but I've never been to me.
Peter Sterling is my special guest to this hour, Exo Nation. His website is harpmagic.com. Peter, do you still communicate with the angels?
I certainly do, all the time. They're talking to me right now, as a matter of fact.
What are they saying?
Well, they love it. They love our conversation, They love it when we talk about them. When we talk about them, that attracts them. They're attracted to that energy. And especially, because I work with them. We work as my team. I've had this connection now for over 30 years. And
Right.
we work really as a team. And they work in the quantum field. So even right now, as we're having this conversation and we're speaking of them and speaking of them with reverence and appreciation, and love, they so respond to that. That's their frequency, that's their vibration. And they told me, one of the things was they wanted me to talk about them with people, because a lot of people don't believe in them. A lot of people still think maybe angels are a fantasy or some sort of mythic lore, or
Yeah.
or legend, but no, that they're real and they're here with us, and everybody has an angel around them. There's this kind of a mysterious thing about angels, how apparently we all have like a guardian angel, from the time of birth. It's here with us to help us on our journey. But the angels love it when we talk about them, and we do work as a team. And even now with your listeners, like if you just open your heart, the angels are with us now. They're opening up portals of celestial light that is shining down from the heavenly realms, God's divine love, shining down into this lower world, this lower world down into lower dimensions of where we live on earth. And there was a time, they told me, when all the beings that lived here felt that and were connected to that source of light and love. But then something happened and we lost our connection. Even to this day, most people think we're just kind of orphans, cosmic orphans in this great expanse of the universe. Perhaps some people think we're the only living beings in the whole universe, and that all this other stuff is just make believe. But no, the angels want us to know they're real. They're here with us now. And if there's any listeners that, are going through something in your life, maybe there's a challenge that you're going through, maybe your heart is heavy, maybe you're dealing with something that's intense in your life, you can ask the angels you can invite them to come into your life, come into your heart, and connect with you. Just call them from your heart, from that frequency of love, and they'll respond to you. And they can help us. They're here to assist and to help us, and to help us overcome things. And as we said earlier, they can come into our life even in the forms of like humans. Rob, I tell a story here, just even today, as a matter of fact. Yesterday I had a group at my house, and I have an art gallery in my home, and I do some crystal business too. So I have some really nice specimens of crystals that people come to see. And they were looking at my artwork, and I do this 3-dimensional holographic artwork I call Portals of Light. And I had these 3D glasses that I have where you look through them and it splits the colors and creates depth of field, and it really opens them up like a hologram. It's really quite fascinating. And I was telling the story how on my birthday a few years back, probably now about, I don't know, 8 or 9 years, and I had some people over for a little party at my house, and I was looking at my art with a group and talking about it. And all of a sudden, this little girl, because my son was young, had some little friends, but all of a sudden, and there were some kids running around at the time, but there's a girl that I never saw before, a little blonde cherub-like girl. And she came into the living room right in the middle of our circle where we were talking with adults about my art. And she must have been 5 or 6. And she just looked at me, and she reached in her top pocket and she pulled out a pair of 3D glasses and she handed them to me. And she said, "Here, try this." And I took them, and then she just scurried off, kind of giggling, and went off with the other kids, I guess. And that was the last I ever saw of her again. And I felt like this was, a little angel that came in to give me the gift. And that's how the angels work with me. They're so amazing when you connect with them. They create these magical synchronicities that just blow your mind. They're so intelligent. They have this high God intelligence, and they create miracles and magical synchronicities into your life. And when you get into that frequency and start to connect in that divine love frequency with the angels, then your life can change. You kind of rise above the ordinary, and then you could kind of rise in this higher level, connected with this higher energy, with the angelic frequencies, and then your life can magically unfold, especially if your desire is for your own awakening to your own divinity within, your spiritual awakening and self-realization and ascension, so to speak, to rise up to a higher level of awareness, out of the 3D and come into a more unified field of oneness, which is like kind of like a 5D, let's say, a consciousness where you understand the interconnectedness of all things. You see that, you begin to experience and see the perfection of the grand design and things. The angels can help us, and you can connect with that energy, and it just can really make life more fun and enjoyable, and they have a great sense of humor. So yeah, Rob, they're here with us now. Isn't that amazing?
It truly is. Now, when they're not with us, where do they go?
Well, I don't know if they're ever not with us. They seem to be kind of woven into the fabric of our life. For me, they're always with me, Rob. I'm always know they're with me. I never doubt it. I always kind
Yeah.
of have this kind of inner dialogue that's going on with them, that's kind of in the background running as I'm taking care of my very kind of 3D life as a father of a teenage son, and making a living and keeping it all together as a householder and being involved in my community. There's always this kind of this higher program that's running, this higher connection with the angelics, and it's just made my life very special. Working with them, it's allowed me to, I believe, to create great works of art, and they've inspired my art and my music for so long. And because I've endeavored to refine myself and to be able to manifest that vision of the oneness through the myriad of ways that God can inspire us to express it and bring it forth, that my life has been blessed. I really feel that. And I feel I have a divine protection around me. I think that's so important too, people to understand that, especially, you know, with our world as crazy as it is right now, changing so quickly, to have that divine connection with that angelic light, that God light in your life. And the angels are messengers, they're kind of wayfarers, way showers, and they're here to guide us into the light, of God's love, that grand light. So to have that now and to tune into that divine guidance, there's a sense of divine protection, I feel too. So I think that's so important for people to connect with that, just to protect their family, their children, and to put your life on a trajectory of, realizing your highest visions and dreams and aspirations of yourself, and how you can, share your love and light with the world through all the different ways that we can do that. So yeah, it's been cool. It's been a very unique life I've had.
It sounds like a very blessed life.
In many ways, yeah.
Peter, what is the main message that the angels have for us at this time?
It's always the same. I think you probably ask me this every time I come on the show. And when I do other shows, people are very curious about that. And what the message that I always get is to never give up hope, right? That there's a light at the end of the tunnel, and it's always darkest before the dawn. And maybe your life and the situation in the world in many ways can be very, in a sense, dark and scary, so to speak. But the angels want you to know there is a divine plan unfolding. And there's something miraculous is happening that's beyond human comprehension. And some of this has been prophesied through different traditions, but I think that they tell me that there's a great change coming. There is a rising up. There is a grand awakening occurring. And it's connected to the long prophesied golden age of man. Like, if we could just get through some of these challenges we have, and that there's a golden age, so to speak, where man can live in harmony again. And it's this, through many traditions speak of this golden age will last 1,000 years. There'll be 1,000 years of peace. And so they always remind me that this is a grand vision, and to have that as my anchor. And that's what I do. I realize that I'm here as a sojourner, as a traveler through time, like a time traveler. And I've incarnated onto the timeline here at this year 2025 on planet Earth. But, I have awareness of being in other times. And I almost feel like I volunteered to come at this time to help out, like a light worker, like a galactic emissary, And this is common with people, and many of my friends here in Sedona, very common with people here, that we came here to help to liberate this planet out of that 3D matrix, and that each of us, the more that we can embody these higher frequencies of light, of angelic light and God's love into our life, that we become a beacon and we share that with others. And then the more that we share that it grows here, and we anchor that new frequency on the planet, and that could spread out through culture, through industry, through technology, that we can infuse love into everything we do. And this is what the golden age vision is. And so that's what keeps me going, Rob. And I love to share that vision with people when they come here.
Peter, stand by. You and I have to take our final break for this hour. What an hour it's been. Talking about angels, my favorite topic. Now listen, Exo Nation, if any one of you listening tonight have had an angel experience, I'd love to hear about it. Send me an email, xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. That's xzone@xzoneradiotv.com. And what I'll do is I'll keep a copy and I'll forward a copy up to Peter, and we'll discuss it. So once again,
awesome.
Angels, my favorite topic. They are real. They do exist. Now, I've never seen a UFO. I've never seen a ghost, so I can't say whether they're real or not. But I have seen an angel, so I know they are real. We'll be back on the other side of this very short break as we wrap up this hour here in the X Zone on the X Zone Broadcast Network and your hometown radio, Classic 1220, CFAJ in St. Catharines, Ontario, streaming classic1220.ca.
Discontented mother and a regimented wife. I've no doubt you dream about the things you'll never do, but I wish someone had to talk to me like I want to talk to you. Ooh, I've been to Georgia and California and anywhere.
The light shines down the valley, the wind blows up the alley. Oh, and I wish I was lying in the arms of Mary. She took the pains of boyhood and turned them into feel good. Oh, and I wish I was lying in the arms of Mary. Mary was the girl who taught me all I had to know. She put me right on the first mistake. Summer wasn't gone and I learned all she had to show. She really gave all a boy could take, yeah.
Welcome back, everyone. Peter Sterling is my guest this hour of the X Zone. And first of all, Peter, as always, great having you on the show. But here's a question that I've always been meaning to ask you. Where do angels originate from?
Out of the mind of God, I guess. Gosh, that's a good question. I mean, most spiritual traditions say that that there was just a great emptiness or a void, and
Right.
before any of the creation happened. So I think the angels just emerged from that great source of light that I was describing, that golden sphere of light that's just pulsating pure love. That's what the angels told me when I was telling the story a little bit early, how I saw that star. They took me and saw the sphere of light, and it was pulsating pure love. The angels told me, Rob, that this is God, that this is the source of all love and light in the universe, that this is the wellspring. And when I saw the sphere of light, and then I could see something was around it, there was some sort of shapes around it, and I adjusted my vision again, and what came into focus was this glorious grand vision of the luminous sphere of light surrounded by the multitudes of angels of all shapes and sizes, and they were all singing praises to the source of all love and light in the universe. They were in divine exaltation and singing as one with their voices of the angelic sounds of the angels all singing together as one is the most glorious sound you could ever imagine. And it never ends. It's going on right now. Even as we're having this conversation, as I was saying, how the angels they're opening up portals from our world to theirs, to where this source of love is, and helping to bring this light and this love to planet Earth right now that's kind of struggling to make it through the great shift. But the angels are working overtime. They're with us all the time. And so, I think they're just an emanation of the oneness, and somehow in God's grand design that's beyond human comprehension, that the angels were created. I think it's one of the first things maybe that was created. God created the angels for specific purposes. And my understanding is they administer through the great universes, through the multiverse, and they have different administrative functions, keeping the planets swirling around the stars and the suns, and keeping the universe in harmony and somehow. So it's really beyond our comprehension. But when you get a taste of it and you've seen an angel, as you've described, Rob, that opens you up to this great realization that there is something more. And I know for you as for me, when you've had that experience, it's like a great comfort to the soul, isn't it?
It truly is. You were saying earlier that you do tours. What kind of tours do you do?
Well, I do my Sedona Sacred Land Journeys is the name of my business here, and I have information about it on my website, Harp Magic. But I've been taking people out into the backcountry. I work with groups and individuals. I have a Jeep, and I have a 7-passenger van. And so I love to take people out into the beauty of Sedona and show them all the special places and explore the vortexes and go out on the land. And I bring, what I'm quite well known for, it's very unique about my tours, is I bring a small harp along and some crystal singing bowls. But the harp, when we get out to these locations on these beautiful cliff ledges overlooking the canyons, I take out the harp and I hold it up above my head, and the wind blows through the harp and vibrates the strings. It's called the wind harp, and the sound is like angelic choirs. It's like such a high frequency celestial sound of the wind harp, and it's so enchanting. It's a magical sound like nothing you've ever heard before. And so I play the wind harp for people, and we call them the angels. And then I play the wind harp over their body. And sometimes people lay down, and I lay the harp right on your body as it's being played by the wind. And it's just so blissful and very healing. So I do my sound work, and we work with prayer and invocation, and just like we're doing, we have a conversation, and I share my story and open up that portal working with my team. And many of the people that come on my tours, they have an experience of the angels. Sometimes they see them, they feel them, they hear them, and there's a healing that takes place often. So I love sharing that with people. It gets me out on the land, and it's not a full-time thing every day. It's more, I only really do mainly get a lot of referrals and by request. I don't have a regular schedule. So if people are coming to Sedona and you're looking for a special experience, you could consider coming out on one of my sacred journeys.
That sounds like a plan. I understand the spiritual aspect of Sedona, and I understand why the spirituality is so important to people who are on a quest for that yearning of a feeling they have deep inside of them that they just can't figure out where, what, who, or why. Sedona is known worldwide for that.
Mm-hmm.
But what is the scientific explanation, if there is any, for
Well, there is.
what
There
is
is some, people often ask me, what is a vortex? What creates the vortexes? Well, there's a few things going on here. And, we know from talking to the elders of the Hopi and the Zuni and Navajo that Sedona is well known back even in the ancient times of being this beautiful, incredible sacred place. And we have a history here with the rock art, the pictographs and the petroglyphs of people coming here for over 12,000 years. We have a record of it. And this was always held in such high esteem. And so what we have here is the red rocks are full of iron, very high iron content. That's what makes the red rocks red. So there's an electromagnetic component to that. We also have gold and silver and quartz and different rare earth minerals in the land here. And there's this primal earth energy that emanates up from deep in, because the oldest layer here that we can see traveling back in geologic time has been dated to 500 million years ago. So 500 million years of earth history we see on display in front of us here in Sedona. And once you learn the different layers of the rocks and the stories that it tells of the ancient earth, okay, but what's also interesting is that there's the vortex sites have these rarefied magnetic fields, and if you were to go to the USGS.gov, U.S. Geological Survey, that the USGS they surveyed all of North America, measuring the magnetic fields using aircraft flying at low altitude with a magnetometer. And they measured the Earth's magnetic field in North America. And you can see the magnetic field lines there on the website. If you were to do that, you would see that, so generally speaking, the magnetic field's relatively constant, but there are places where there's spikes and dips in the magnetic field. These are known as magnetic anomalies.
Mm-hmm.
And so, as it turns out, Sedona has, I think, the highest percentage, the highest density of these unusual magnetic fields, and they correspond to the different rock formations and to the main vortex areas like Bell Rock, Cathedral Rock, Boynton Canyon. These all have these rare magnetic fields that emanate from deep in the earth. We also have underneath Sedona, just 500 feet down under Sedona is water. Is the largest aquifer in the southwest United States. An underground river flows right underneath Sedona. So we have the water element, which is a conductor.
And the iron.
And the iron and the gold and quartz crystal and silver and copper here. Arizona's the copper state, so there's lots of copper in the land here too. So it all works to create this energetic, high frequency energetic here. And it's pretty profound. So, what's interesting is that there is some research that shows that our brainwave states entrain with the magnetic field. So when you go to these different locations and you just sit and meditate and just relax into it, you come into resonance with the magnetic field there. And my experience is it changes your brainwave state. And our perceptions are associated with whatever brainwave state we're in. And so what I've come to find out that Sedona facilitates people accessing, like an alpha state meditation, but also what's more common is the theta state, which is like a lucid dreaming, associated with lucid dreaming. It's known as the twilight state. And we kind of pass through it, falling asleep and waking up, and when we're kind of having the lucid dream. And that's why when you're here, it feels like you're kind of in a dream. There's this dreamy quality to being to the atmosphere here in Sedona, and people speak of this all the time, and I have this experience all the time. That's why so many artists and creative people love to be here, because it's really fun to be in that kind of energy. It enhances the theta state, enhances creativity and visions and visualizations, and dreams. So it's fascinating. There is some research about the unique magnetic fields here in Sedona. And this is what people come from the world over now, is to just come and immerse themselves into these vibration, these magnetic fields, and people change. You know, I say this is a place of remembrance. When you come out and you lay in the energy and just bathe in the energy and just get real quiet, all of a sudden people kind of remember who they are. Now I remember why I've come. Like for me, I'm a harpist. And others, I'm a healer. I'm a writer. This or that. And, you know, I'm quitting my job. And I'm going to just follow my passion now. Like that happens pretty regularly.
Well, Peter, it's the time when I must say so long to you, my friend. Always great talking to you. Continued success.
Thank you.
And I look forward to the next time you take a visit here with us in the X Zone.
I look forward to it.
Take care of yourself, Peter, and congratulations once again. Exonation, if you'd like to find out more about Peter, visit his website, magicharp.com. That's it for tonight, Exonation. I'll be back tomorrow night at 10 o'clock as once again we cross the time-space continuum to this place I call the X Zone on the X Zone Broadcast Network at xzbn.net and on your hometown radio, classic1220.ca. So until tomorrow night, always remember, keep your eyes to the sky and your heart to the light. Good night, everyone.